I just had to weigh in on all the insanity surrounding Annabelle, a purportedly demonic possessed Raggedy Ann doll. I'm going to go over the backstory of that, the involvement of Ed and Lorraine Warren, and the current involvement of the New England Society for Psychic Research, who are taking this doll out on tour. And I'm going to conclude with all the current crazy things going on in Louisiana, where this doll spent a weekend. Annabelle the doll was a gift given to a nursing student by her mother, and the nursing student had at least one apartment mate, and she was also engaged. At some point, the doll began to exhibit somewhat odd behavior. They would set it down in one position, they would come back later, it'd be in a slightly different position. So at first, there were just slight nuances to the weirdness. Over time, it became much more intense, where the doll would actually relocate in their apartment. They'd leave the doll in one room, they'd come home and be in another room. And this all culminated in the fiancé supposedly being attacked by the doll while sleeping, and he was scratched. Now, if you've seen a Raggedy Ann doll in person, you'll know these are all soft dolls. They don't have any sharp edges to them. They're meant for young children. So how could this doll have scratched this guy? Who knows? These young girls were quite perplexed, also obviously very upset about what was going on. So they hired a psychic medium to come in and sit with them in the doll and try to figure out what was going on. Well, this woman tells them that there is the spirit of a young girl who died on the property many years ago, and she's very attracted to this doll, and she wants to have the girl's permission, note the word permission, to reside within the doll. As to why this psychic medium would not encourage the spirit of this little girl to just move on and continue with her spiritual journey on the other side. That's what any ethical psychic medium would do in this type of situation. However, she didn't do that. She gave the girls the option of inviting the spirit to reside within the doll. And so the girls conclude that's the best way to go. And things escalate from there, supposedly. Enter Ed and Lorraine Warren, a married couple of paranormal investigators who are famous for, or perhaps infamous for, depending on your point of view, the Amityville house, which launched the movie franchise, the Amityville Horror. Ed and Lorraine Warren are also very well known for the Annabelle case, which also launched the Annabelle movie franchise. In addition, as a paranormal investigative team, they are well known for numerous other cases, which has launched the Conjuring movie franchise. So we have this one couple who are responsible, who have spurred on 3 different movie franchises that are extremely high grossing. And it really intrigues me as to the timing of all this, because this is May, at the time I'm recording this, May 21st, 2025. The doll Annabelle has been out on tour, and she was recently in Louisiana. And she was in Louisiana on the weekend of May 13th to the 14th. She was in New Orleans at a shop that runs ghost tours. I myself and my husband have gone on one of the shop's ghost tours. It was really cool. They take you to the LaLaurie Mansion. You've probably heard of the LaLaurie Mansion, and some other well-known haunts in Louisiana. So Annabelle the doll, the story behind her is that the Warrens took her, they had an occult museum in the basement of their home in Connecticut. So they moved her into her home, and they had a priest come out and sanctify the area they were going to put her. They had a special wooden case with a glass door built to house her. They had this case blessed, and then they put the doll in there, locked her in there, and there's a sign: no one is to open this case. Ever, ever, ever. And the Warrens themselves went on many lecture circuits, and they were often on tour. That was their bread and butter. And they did not take Annabelle all over. There are people reporting that they toured her all over. As far as I've been able to tell from the internet and from sources, that's not true. They left her at home. So whatever the case may be. Then in recent years, Ed and Lorraine Warren are now both passed over, and their son-in-law, Tony Spera, is now the curator of their occult museum. The New England Society for Psychic Research connected with Tony Spera, and they decided to put Annabelle on tour. A doll who is never supposed to be moved, because supposedly she is demonically possessed and is therefore a danger to the public. But everybody believed as long as she remains in her case, no one physically touches her, everything's going to be kosher, right? So they take Annabelle, and the first stop of the tour, as far as I know, was May 13th and 14th of 2025. They took her again, like I said, to New Orleans, Louisiana. I've been to New Orleans twice, and as a psychic sensitive, I can tell you the energy there is very different than anywhere else I've been. And I have even been to London, which is very, very haunted. I've been to the Tower in London, which is extremely haunted, has very dark energy. New Orleans is kind of like a mix of dark and light. And so it kind of makes for this kind of a gray psychic energy there. It's really an interesting city. I really highly recommend you visit. You know, since you're watching this, you're obviously into the paranormal. New Orleans should be at the top of your list. Anyway, getting back to my story. So the doll was brought there. She was in her case, nice and cozy. You know, nothing supposedly occurred, right? Okay, I have notes here because there are exact dates involved, and I want to get the sequence of events just right. Now remember, Annabelle was in New Orleans, May 13th through the 14th. That Thursday at 2 p.m., a fire breaks out at Nottoway Plantation, otherwise known as Nottoway Castle. The Nottoway was the largest plantation within the state of Louisiana. And because it was all wood slat construction, you know, it went up like a tinderbox. There is nothing left. It burnt to the ground. And honestly, my heart hurts for the current owners. You know, I don't approve of the history of such places, but, you know, we can't erase our history just because we don't agree with it or don't like what happened, you know what I'm saying? And those who ignore history are bound to repeat it. So that's just my opinion. So the Nottoway's gone, 53,000 square feet. That's how huge this plantation was. I personally had never seen it. But I've been to another plantation, Huma's House, which is an hour outside of Louisiana. And if you want to see that story, check this out here. After you watch this video, I will also link to it below in the video description. So, Nottoway Plantation is like an hour and a half outside of New Orleans. So it's not like Annabelle went directly to the plantation, okay? I mean, people are acting like, oh my God, the doll was so close, and then this fire breaks out. You know, it's the demon and the doll doing this. Personally, I think that's a bit of a stretch. However, on Friday, the 16th of May, there was a breakout of the prison there in New Orleans, and 6 prisoners broke out. As of the 19th, 6 were still at large. I don't know if they've caught any in the meantime. I haven't checked the news. But these were very, very dangerous men. Most of them were murderers. Each one had a $10,000 reward on their head for their capture. And as it turns out, the news has announced some janitorial staff member was responsible for helping these men to escape. I mean, God, you know? So now you've got the jailbreak that happens on Friday the 16th. Annabelle had left New Orleans on the 14th. Okay, a little bit more time has gone by. I was taking my notes for this video and I was thinking I was going to put it out. You know, I was actually going to try to do it the day before yesterday, which was like the 19th. And something came up, I didn't have time to do it. In the meantime, on Monday, May 20th, in the very early mornings, within the city of New Orleans, what happens? An unexplained fire breaks out in the kitchen of the home built on the ground where the original home of Voodoo Queen Marie Laveau once stood. If you heard of Marie Laveau, you should Google her. Very interesting individual. I myself have visited her grave to pay my respects, and it's got some wild energy around her grave. It's not evil, it's just very high energy. So that fire started in the kitchen, and the owner, the woman who owns the home, she heard like a crackling sound. That's what woke her up. And so she woke up her partner, and he said he never heard anything if she hadn't woken him up. So they both got out, they're fine. And the fire, let's say it broke out, it says just in the early morning hours. By 4 a.m., the firefighters arrived. 2.5 hours later, the fire was contained and extinguished. I have no further information on that property. You may want to Google it and see if it's been, utterly destroyed. I don't think it was. I think the firefighters got there quick enough. So that's interesting. Also, the way this home is built, there's an adjoining home, and the adjoining home had absolutely no damage to it. But then again, notice the connection between the Nottoway Plantation, the prison break, and the original location of the home of Marie Laveau. What kind of people are put in prison? What sort of atrocities were responsible for building the plantation economy? And then you've got someone who practiced voodoo, and now a fire broke out in what was once their property. So you've got dark energy involved in all three of these strange disasters. So it does kind of give one pause. Is there some sort of energy involved with this doll that somehow reached out and attacked these places that it deemed to be somewhat negative? The thing is, though, the doll itself is considered to be demonic. So that hypothesis that some YouTubers are throwing around, I don't think really holds much water. I also don't think that Annabelle was directly responsible for any of this. However, I will freely admit it is a very bizarre coincidence, is it not? I myself have had personal paranormal experiences, not once, but twice in my life, with dolls that did things on their own. And if you want to see that video, I'll be filming that one next. So you'll have to subscribe, like this video, and come back for the new one. Be sure to click to subscribe a second time. That'll bring up the notifications, and click all for notifications so that you get a blurb in your YouTube notifications when I upload. I typically upload every Wednesday at noon. I'm having some physical issues with my eyes that precludes me from spending very much time looking at a screen. So it takes me a really long time now to edit a video. I can no longer post consistently every week, so I will try for every 2 weeks or so. And I'll announce to my community tab at my channel when I'm going to have another video come up, so you all will be informed. So do keep an eye out on my community channel. So what do you think? Do you think that this doll could be possessed? Do you think that this energy contained within this doll, that is, well, supposedly contained within this doll, could be responsible for the fire at Nottoway Plantation, the prison breakout, and the fire in the kitchen of the former property of Marie Laveau? I don't know. You tell me. I'd be very interested to hear. So thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you tuning in. This is Nefer of Magical Musings 1111, wishing you a very blessed day ahead.